Disney killed Star Wars. Or did it? Are you sure about that? Are you sure something else didn't already kill it for you earlier on? Are you 100% sure you weren't this dissatisfied significantly earlier on in this franchise's chronology? So I'm supposed to trust that you weren't upset at all about the Phantom Menace. I'm supposed to trust in the idea that maybe you were not disappointed by Attack of the Clones. I mean, okay, that's fair enough, everyone's got an opinion. Now let's talk about mine. Once again, this video is sponsored by NordVPN, and you can get 4 months free with a 3-year subscription by using my discount code. Everything you need is in the description below, so check it out. Alright, onwards. So until the big Disney buyout of Lucasfilms, the Star Wars prequel saga was commonly seen as the worst of what Star Wars has to offer, resented for ruining what was once a great franchise, retroactively hurting the narrative of the original trilogy that everybody liked better, and early echoes of the death of practical effects in Hollywood. Since that time, some fans have come out to defend the prequel trilogy, saying that they're actually a lot better than we realized, while many still use them as the ultimate point of reference of the low point in the Star Wars franchise. Now let me get one thing out of the way first. There is more than enough videos of people telling their opinions on the Star Wars prequel series. I'm well aware that I'm just adding one video to an already mountainous stack of Star Wars prequel videos, but I wouldn't be making this if I fell into either one of those camps. So no, I don't think the Star Wars prequels are better than everybody realizes. I don't think they are on the level of the original trilogy, and I do not think they are good movies. So I'm not going to try and speak out and properly defend the quality of these films, but I don't think they are the low point of the Star Wars franchise either. As a matter of fact, I don't think they are anywhere near the low point of the Star Wars franchise. The low point of the Star Wars franchise is something I'm going to talk about after the Rise of Skywalker is out, because only then can we properly talk about everything retrospectively. I would hate to talk about what I believe is my low point for the Star Wars franchise, only to have the Rise of Skywalker come out and ruin absolutely everything, which it could well do. Am I expecting that? No. Am I hoping for that? Fuck no. But it is in the realm of possibility while none of us have seen it yet. Alright then, let's talk about the first of the Star Wars prequels, Star Wars The Phantom Menace, which some would say is the worst Star Wars movie, others would say Attack of the Clones. I'll kind of compare and contrast a little later on. But I would go so far as to say that Star Wars The Phantom Menace is not a great film by any stretch, but it's not a bad film. Though I think it may be perhaps a little too far to even go and call it a good film. Star Wars The Phantom Menace, for the most part, is perfectly okay. It does well to kind of keep in line with what Star Wars was kind of always all about. It's a slice of life in the universe. It's a quest movie in outer space. The character archetypes are at least a little bit similar to what we had before. But the order and the way these things are introduced kind of make it a bit more difficult to slot these characters into their kind of archetypes. I mean, put it this way, who is the main character of the Phantom Menace? Like, Star Wars definitely had an ensemble cast, but there was a main character, and it was always Luke Skywalker. But who is the main protagonist of the Phantom Menace? You could kinda point to Obi-Wan, as he kinda goes through the most in this movie, and he's definitely not the wise sage that he was in the original trilogy, as that goes to Qui-Gon Jinn this time around. He's not a guy that's got a lot to learn, but he's got stuff to learn. Then there is young Anakin Skywalker, who's got a lot to learn, but in fairness, he's a kid. And he's only introduced halfway into the movie. So, like, you can find the sage well enough, that's Qui-Gon. You can find the animal sidekick well enough, and you can kind of find the villain, and that's Darth Maul. Although the Viceroy play a bit of a larger role in the grand scheme of things. Oh god, I've lost it. I mean, in some ways, you could say that defying character archetypes is kind of a positive end for this movie. But the thing is, it's a lot more diluted than it was in the originals. The characterization of these characters is a lot more vague, and I think that comes down to the fact that everybody's just starting out here. We don't have a Darth Vader, we have young Anakin Skywalker. A kid with a lot to learn, but he's kind of too young to really learn much in this film, so he's kind of benched for most of it. He gets to do kind of the fun adventure action sequences, and it's all, oh wow, because it's through the eyes of a child, but that's just about it really. He's kind of just an audience surrogate for a younger audience that are seeing all this for the first time and are absolutely thrilled by it, but to be fair, they didn't really need it. Kids never really had any trouble getting Star Wars to resonate with them. We've got Darth Maul, the main baddie, who's got barely anything to do. He just kind of answers to the Phantom Menace, who we all know is Emperor Palpatine, and gets a cool fight scene, but really that's all he gets. Obi-Wan is forced to learn independence at the very end of the movie, so again, he doesn't really get the chance to have any kind of an arc either, and it really is just kind of a reminder of why George Lucas started at episode 4, is because if you start episode 1 of this story, if you start at the childhood of Darth Vader and all the goings-on revolving around that, there's really not much to tell in a 2-hour film. So then we have Jar Jar Binks, who's generally considered to be the absolute lowest of the low when it comes to Star Wars. Now I think, yeah, in some ways Jar Jar Binks is kind of the manifestation of everything that had gone wrong with the prequel saga, in that he's a fully CGI character who's desperately trying to carry this otherwise extremely monotone movie with comedy that just doesn't land. And Jar Jar Binks ends up being just more of a stereotype than anything else, and that's the thing. While our main cast are very diluted in comparison to the original trilogy's cast, the characters around them are all stereotypes, and in many cases culturally insensitive, such as Watto, who's clearly an Israeli stereotype. You've got the Viceroy, who are clearly East Asian stereotypes, and to some degree Jar Jar is a Jamaican stereotype. On paper, having a character that's a bit more fun-loving and vibrant, and perhaps a little bit of an annoyance to the other characters, kinda works, but sadly Jar Jar just doesn't land. Right, I got through the Phantom Menace without slagging off Jar Jar Binks, and that's partly because I think it's just a bit unfair and really stupid to just pin every single grievance one could have with a movie on one character if that character isn't the problem. I mean, if you took Jar Jar out of the Phantom Menace, does it become good? You can argue it becomes better, but for me, I don't think so. For me, the main offense in The Phantom Menace was everything that happens on Coruscant. I think the worst thing a film can do is bore me. And yes, that entire second act political jibber-jabber stuff is just, it's boring. One positive thing that a lot of people had to say was that the fight between Darth Maul, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Obi-Wan was a big step up from any of the lightsaber battles in the original trilogy, and I'm gonna say I disagree. It's a lot more choreographed and it's a lot more polished. It's a lot more quicker and slick-paced. Yes, the music is great, the effects and cinematography are great, and it's all a lot more dancey and, you know, glamorous than any of the lightsaber battles that we had in the original trilogy. And that's because we have two Jedi Masters going up against a Sith Lord, who is highly skilled in himself. Their fight is clearly going to be a lot more refined and a bit more musical, but I just prefer, from a film perspective, the rawness of the fight scenes that we had in the original trilogy. So while I'm not too damning on the prequel movies, I'm not even gonna give this that in terms of improvements over the originals. It's a cool fight, it's just, given the choreography of it, I just don't feel like I'm feeling the rawness of Obi-Wan's emotions after Qui-Gon Jinn dies, because he just resumes the same style of lightsaber battle. And yes, you can argue that's what Obi-Wan would do because he's got a lot of discipline, but that for me just, it doesn't make the movie. So the Phantom Menace for me is kind of a worthy attempt that just didn't land right. It's the kind of thing you could accept as like an anomaly though. It's like, okay, you know, sometimes you can have all the best intentions and it just doesn't land right. Shortly after the film's release, there was an obvious denial period of people saying, yes, it's just as good as the originals, maybe even the best one yet, which became bile anger, which I, to be honest, can't justify. I especially could never justify people taking this out on the actors involved. Like, you can use the defense of, oh, we're just leveling this stuff at the characters, it's not necessarily the actors' fault, it could be down to directing, but you can never truly know what it's like to be on the receiving end of the criticism that these guys have had to deal with. Now, criticism is one thing. Bile, anger, rage, fury, and hatred is another thing entirely. It must have been heartbreaking for George Lucas dealing with all that resentment. Worse yet, Ahmed Best, the voice actor of Jar Jar Binks. He was suicidal after the reception of his character of Jar Jar Binks. Worse yet, Jake Lloyd. He was already suffering with schizophrenia, but the way people treated him after the Phantom Menace, it pushed him over the edge. He had a driving offense, he went to jail where his schizophrenia was just allowed to rot, and now we don't know what the outcome of that is. We don't know if Jake Lloyd is okay. At this stage, he could be a vegetable because of all this. Now, I know obviously it's down to the schizophrenia doing this, but you gotta be careful how you treat people, you know, have your opinions and everything, but be responsible with them, air them responsibly. Anyway, everybody's voices were heard going into Attack of the Clones, as George Lucas went out of his way to make a film that was more spectacle-driven, a lot less politics, there were no child actors having big roles in this one, Jar Jar Binks' role was well cut down, there was a more clear through line with its main character being an aged-up Anakin, so this film was supposed to tell us, yeah, we learned a lot from The Phantom Menace. But I think it's very apparent that they learned all the wrong lessons. Or maybe this one was just a massive accident as well, I do not know. But this is a more of a grand, epic scale blockbuster than I think any Star Wars movie before it. And it's all thanks to CGI. Way too much CGI. I think pretty much anything you see on screen that isn't an actor in this one is CGI. In this one we develop Anakin's relationship with Padme Amidala. Oh god, I didn't even mention Padme in the previous one. Well yeah, Padme's there. The mother of Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa, as portrayed by Natalie Portman, who was kind of charmed and crushing a little bit by the end on Jake Lloyd. Getting some noncery from that. Someone call Callum. Hey up. We also get a little backstory on Boba Fett's father and the dawn of the Clone Wars, and yet stuffing all that into one movie is as messy as it sounds. I think the main attraction here is supposed to be the Grand Colosseum battle by the end when we see more lightsabers than we've ever seen before. Or perhaps getting to see Yoda fight for the first time with a lightsaber. Like, the thing with Yoda is his main thing is the Force, and, like, there's a lot of potential for a Force battle, but nope, we just whip out the laser swords again. And we've got Yoda running up all these structures, doing flips and stuff, and it looks like Sonic the Hedgehog, and I like Sonic the Hedgehog, but that's not what Yoda is. So we've got this whole story where Anakin is supposed to be protecting Padme from an assassin, and he takes her on these nice little picnic dates to the Windows XP default desktop background, and makes very clear that he wants to get with her in a really creepy nice guy kind of a way. But I mean, fair enough, I guess he's inexperienced, while Padme just blue balls him the entire time, literally wearing bondage suits while telling him she's not gonna get with him. And we see a bit of Anakin's darker streak as well, as he kind of takes his frustration out on literally anything and everyone with a pulse. And nor this or the fact that he's kind of subscribing to a fascist philosophy seems to bother Padme. Or the love dialogue that's supposed to sound Shakespearean but instead sounds a bit more like Tommy Wiseau would come up with. So it's badly written, the character motivations are confusing, the action sequences just don't quite work, the visuals are really glaringly fake, and the whole thing is just overlong and bloated. And you cannot justify all CGI stormtroopers, sorry, clone troopers. I'm sorry guys, god, really sorry. Also, for the first time, CGI Yoda. So yeah, Attack of the Clones is pretty indefensible, to be fair. This is the one that I would call bad. Out of the Phantom Menace and this, without question, Attack of the Clones is the bad one. So next up is Revenge of the Sith, the film that would complete the circle. The film that would be the very final Star Wars movie, and the final Star Wars prequel. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars movie. It boasts some of the biggest action we've ever had in a Star Wars movie, especially with that final battle between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. We get a glimpse of the Star Wars we all know and love by the end of it, as everything is jammed into place for the original trilogy to play out. Ewan McGregor acts his heart out as Obi-Wan. The visuals are unique, creative, and a big step up from the previous ones. General Grievous is kind of an interesting sub-villain. Ian McDiarmid's Emperor Palpatine steals the show this time around and gets more screen time than he's ever had before. We get to see Anakin Skywalker finally get truly manipulated by Emperor Palpatine and transformed into the Darth Vader we know and love. And while that doesn't really land well because Anakin was never the most likable character to begin with, what lands well is the heartbreaking and horrific Order 66 scene where the Jedi are slaughtered by the Sith and Anakin finally crosses the line and kills a load of kids. Although, like, he kind of crossed that line in episode 2 when he killed not just the men, but the women and the children too, but whatever. This whole thing's a mess anyway. Let me make a distinction here very quickly. My favorite Star Wars movie does not equal the best Star Wars movie. Like, this is by far and away not the best Star Wars film. It's written pretty badly, there are moments of downtime which go on for a little bit too long, Anakin's dialogue is still absolutely wince-worthy, the final battle is overlong and pretentious, it does lose its opportunity for Anakin Skywalker's turn to the dark side to be truly tragic, when we all saw it coming from a mile off and they didn't do much to make us not want it, because Anakin was never a great character to begin with. Like, it's still pretty far from a great film, but what lifts this is Ian McDiarmid's Emperor Palpatine. This guy, you could just sit him in a room for a bit and it would be entertaining. But while it doesn't work, I also just love how headstrong this movie is. And I feel like that certainly becomes infectious. Right, Clone Wars didn't see it. Clearly aimed at kids, people didn't like it, was just kind of a backdoor pilot for the TV series, which was a lot better. So overall, the prequels were an honest misfire. It was a good effort, it didn't land the way it should have, and I think they needed to kind of stay a little truer to the original vision of Star Wars overall with cleaner cut characters than this. I understand that George Lucas is trying to go a bit more morally grey with this, I understand he's trying to defy convention, and I admire the heck out of that, but it just didn't land right. So what do you guys think? Comment below and discuss, and as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the like button, and in the description below are the links to my Patreon and my Discord. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and have a great day. That's a cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you? Because you could get a way better costume from Zentai Zone. Check out their range of custom-made, tailored superhero costumes. Ridiculously good quality, value, and customization. Link is in the description below, as well as my coupon code CHANNELPUP, where you can get a discount off of your purchase. And while you're at it, why not get your suit designed by my talented buddy Dan from New Blood Dan's workshop? You can contact him via the link in the description below. Seriously guys, you do not want to miss out on your chance to be your favorite superhero and feel authentic and professional. And you don't want to miss out on that Channel Pup discount.